Hey everyone, sorry it's so late. It's been a really long day for me. I've been on the computer all day trying to figure out how to make online school better and how to assign math assignments in different ways and how to let you be able to read the journey stories and all sorts of stuff. Oh, my brain is going to explode. I'm hoping to work really hard so that you guys can learn all the most important things that you need to before the year is over. And I have to figure out a way for you to turn in assignments so I can grade them. Boo-hoo. Just kidding. No, I want to see how you guys are doing. I want to see if you're learning and if the assignments that you're getting are helpful. All of this is so new to me, so I spent the entire day on the computer trying to figure all of this crazy stuff out. So now it is time, my brain needs a rest, and it is now time for me to read you Sideways Stories from Wayside School. So there aren't any pictures except for one at the very beginning, and the chapter is called Sammy. So you get to just listen to me read tonight. Here we go. It was a horrible, stinky, rainy day. Some rainy days are fun and exciting, but not this one. This one stunk. All the children were wet and wore smelly raincoats. The whole room smelled awful. "Ooh, it stinks in here," said Maricia. Everyone laughed, but she was right. There was one good thing, however. There was a new boy in class. New kids are always fun, except no one could even tell what the new boy looked like. He was completely covered in his raincoat. "Class," said Mrs. Jules, "I'd like you all to meet Sammy. Let us show him what a nice class we can be." Leslie walked up and smiled at Sammy, but her smile quickly turned to a frown. "You smell terrible," she said. "Leslie," exclaimed Mrs. Jules, "that's no way to greet a new member of our class." Mrs. Jules wrote Leslie's name on the blackboard under the word, you got it, discipline. "But he does, Mrs. Jules," said Leslie. "He smells awful." Ooh, I lost my place. Oh my goodness, you guys. "Oh, you're ugly," Sammy replied. "Now, Sammy, that's no way to talk," said Mrs. Jules. "Leslie is a very pretty girl." "She's ugly," said Sammy. Allison spoke up. "Well, you smell terrible and are probably even uglier. But nobody can see you because you're hiding under that smelly old raincoat." "That will be enough of that," said Mrs. Jules. "Now, Sammy, why don't you take off your coat and hang it in the closet? Let us all see how nice you look." "I don't want to." "You old windbag," said Sammy. "That's because he's so ugly," said Leslie. "I'm sure he's quite handsome," said Mrs. Jules. "He's just shy. Here, let me help you." Mrs. Jules took off Sammy's coat for him, but underneath it was still another raincoat, even dirtier and smellier than the first one. They still couldn't see his face. "Ew, now he smells even worse," said Maricia. "You don't exactly smell like a rose either," Sammy replied. Mrs. Jules took off his second raincoat, but there was still another one under that. And the smell became so bad that Mrs. Jules had to run and stick her head out the window to get some fresh air. "You're all a bunch of pigs," Sammy screeched. "Dirty, rotten pigs." The smell was overpowering. Sammy just stood there hidden under his raincoats. Mrs. Jules wrote Sammy's name under the word discipline. Send him home on the kindergarten bus, said Joy. Not with me, said Todd. Mrs. Jules held her nose,
walked up to Sammy, and removed his raincoat. She threw it out the window, but he had on still another one.
Sammy hissed. Watch where you throw my good clothes. Mrs. Jules put a check next to Sammy's name on the blackboard. Then she took off another raincoat and threw it out the window. The smell got worse, for he had on still another one. Sammy began to laugh. His horrible laugh was even worse than his horrible voice. When Sammy first came into the room, he was 4 feet tall. But after Mrs. Jules removed 6 of his raincoats, he was only 3 feet tall, and there were still more raincoats to go. Mrs. Jules circled his name and removed another coat. She threw it out the window. Then she put a triangle around the circle and threw another one of his coats outside. She kept doing this until Sammy was only 1.5 feet high. With every coat she took off, Sammy's laugh got louder and the smell got worse. Some of the children held their ears. Others could hold only one ear because they were holding their nose with the other hand. It was hard to say which one was worse, the laugh or the smell. Can you do that? Like this? Which would you choose? Sammy stopped laughing and said, Hey, if you take off one more of my coats and throw it out the window, I'll bite your head off. They smell too bad for me to allow them in my classroom, said Mrs. Jules. You can pick them up when you leave. They smell better than you do, Sammy shouted. Mrs. Jules didn't stop. She took off another one of his coats, then another and another. Sammy was only 4 inches tall, 3 inches tall, 2 inches tall. At last she removed the final coat. All that was there was a dead rat. Well, I don't allow dead rats in my classroom, said Mrs. Jules. She picked it up by the tail, put it in a plastic bag, and threw it away. Mrs. Jules didn't allow dead rats in her class. Todd once brought in a dead rat for show and tell, and Mrs. Jules made him throw that one away too. I'm glad Sammy isn't allowed in our classroom, said Rondi. I didn't like him very much. Yes, said Mrs. Jules. We caught another one. Dead rats were always trying to sneak into Mrs. Jules' class. That was the 3rd one she'd caught since September. All right, you guys. Well, good thing our Sammy isn't a boy, and good thing our Sammy is absolutely adorable, and our Sammy always smells really, really good. So, but we don't want any boy rats. That would be awful, awful. Okay, that's my story for tonight. Hope you liked it. And I am going to go rest my brain. Oh, by the way, I cleaned my room today. Did you clean your room today? I hope so. I slept so good because my room was nice and clean. I always sleep better when it's all clean. All right, love you guys. See you later. Bye-bye.